I remember this one night, I got up and I preached this message. It was so complicated. It was horrible. The message was called, I'm Clearly Confused. And let me tell you this. I was clearly confused. I don't know what I was talking about. I was talking every which way. I got in an argument with Victoria right before. Victoria is she's my wife for those that don't know me. And we got in an argument. And every minister knows that an argument before you minister could be a recipe for disaster. And that night it was. And I remember preaching, saying all these things. And when I got off the stage, I knew the sermon didn't resonate because one of my leaders walked up to me and he gave me encouragement that he knew I needed. He was like, hey, man, God really moved tonight. Like, he didn't say anything about my sermon. That's how I knew it didn't land. And when I got home, I was asking myself, Tyshone, why did I feel like that sermon didn't really connect? It was because I said so many things that I didn't explain. I did what I see a lot of ministers do when they speak to young people. They assume that young people brought their own spiritual screwdriver, that you can just say any spiritual statement and their spiritual screwdriver can just connect it in their minds. So you can talk about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and you can talk about how God says Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but he doesn't say Abraham, Ishmael, and Jacob. And there's if you do that, you're going to have a generation, you're going to have young people that look at you and they're going to be like this. Who is Ishmael, Isaac, and Jacob? Matter of fact, who's Abraham? Because you are assuming that they have something in their mind or in their back pocket that can just connect everything you're saying. There is no connection piece. You are their connection piece. So when you are preaching to young people, you have to explain it. This means that the most biblical, illiterate generation has something that we have not seen in a long time, a blank canvas. You get to preach the gospel to a generation that doesn't know the gospel. But in order to preach it right, you're going to have to explain it right as well. And I want to talk about how we can make sure that we're preaching not just to the heart, but we're preaching to the head. I wrote this down. It says, when preaching to young people, it is essential that you explain more than you assume. Explain more than you assume. Now, I'm not trying to add 50 minutes to your sermon. You're probably listening right now and you're like, hey, I just studied this sermon for about 15 hours. How do I cram 15 hours of study into a 30-minute sermon? I'm not asking you to do that, nor should you do that. But I want to give you something that I do for every time I preach to young people. I don't do this when I preach to a room full of preachers because majority of this that I give you may not have to be done for the preachers in the room. But I want to show you something that I do when I'm preaching to young people. I ask them the 5 questions: who, what, when, where, and why. Hey, thank you so much for taking your time today to invest in yourself as a communicator to the next generation. If you want this whole course, you can head over to the link below in my description to get it. Now, because I want to reward you for your investment that you already made, if you add the code YouTube, you'll get 10% off the whole entire course. I know, generous. And since you're here and you made it this far, make sure you subscribe. See you later.